Hey there, welcome into the half, everybody. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. Good to be back with my good friend and one of the smartest guys I know, Mr. Erich Campbell. Eric, how are you doing, sir? I love to see you shake your head when I give you compliments.
I just I just know how many much smarter people are out there. but yes,
All right.
my name's Eric Campbell. You can find me, of course, at erichcampbell.com. I'm on the banners today, apparently. But
Nice.
but yes, yeah, I'm glad to be here, and definitely glad to have you here. So, I know you've been really busy, so I'm glad to have you back, and hoping you get some rest sometime soon. I know it's not going to be very soon, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, get some rest. Good deal. So, Eric, we just had a great conversation not too long ago with Jenna Sackett and Josh Caruth. And yeah, let's check in here real quick. Mr. Todd Downing. Oops, sorry.
Sure, no, we're good.
Yeah.
Yo, Todd. I guess we're both clicking buttons today too.
All
I'm
right.
still in producer
You
mode.
want to click today? You seem to
Yeah,
be
I'll
on it.
click.
So
I'll
I'm
click
not
today.
really
Why
on
not?
it today. So
You've had a long travel, my man. Let me handle it. Besides,
all right.
I
So,
always like to get in with the full throated yo from Todd, so I'll
yes.
go ahead and give him the yo. There
Yes,
you go,
okay.
man. You got your yo.
You got
Don't
your yo.
complain.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So,
Good morning, everybody.
where I was heading before I
Yes,
decided to switch gears without signaling, I turned
not a
across four
problem.
lanes of traffic without signaling. Um,
There was a shiny object or a squirrel. We're good.
That's right. That's right.
I know.
So, what was your take? What stood out? Obviously,
Yes.
well, not obviously, but you were not at the event. I wish you would have been there, but
I know.
that
We
didn't
had a
work
bit of a
out.
misfire. I was originally decided to be there, and then it turned out that didn't work out. But there was an awesome event from the folks at Printing United. Paralist did um, this wonderful kind of symposium style event. If you ask me, it was more that way. It was more of a gathering of people than it was a trade show, as well as a qualified buyer event. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want somebody to think like I'm qualifying that for some other reason aside from saying from the vendor standpoint, and I've been both a vendor and an attendee and an educator. I've done and a decorator going to a trade show. I've done all of the above. And I know you have too. There is something for vendors to say, hey, we've got qualified people who are at a stage in their shops and their careers where they are looking to implement solutions. That's a very different audience than the general audience of a trade show. So it's kind of interesting. But what I took out of this whole thing is we were getting into the future of decorating and the
Yes.
future of, I would say, the future of how we gather as decorators and educate and interact. And I think what was interesting there was two things. Number one, just like everybody always likes to do, we always tell the stories about DTG and how immediately the first big promoters of DTG, Fresner himself included, said, hey, screen printing's dead in 2 years, man. Well, nobody's going to pull squeegees anymore once we've got DTG. And of course, that didn't happen. Same thing here. People are sometimes of this mindset that if we do a new kind of gathering, a new kind of education, that then the old kind's dead and there's no usefulness to it. Trade shows are not the same as symposiums, as gatherings of other kinds, as hey, even table shows or individual classroom experiences or dedicated class getaways. There's people who do all of these different methods and they all have strengths and weaknesses and are viable. And I think that's the thing. And hey, some of them fall off. If they fall off, maybe they weren't viable, but some of those things are also due to other factors. I'll say this. What was getting done there, which is like mass team building, getting the right people in front of the right vendors, the right solution providers, and fostering these really small integrated groups is really interesting. And I think I'd like to see more of it. I mean, you and I have been talking about the concept of a decorators only education focused symposium forever, because it's something that we've always kind of believed in, and seeing that the folks over there at Printing United are making this happen, that's massive. It's just massive to see a larger organization and the supporters, the sponsors like Stalls getting involved in it. The fact that sponsors are willing to dump money into it, that the organizers are willing to work on an event, which is a tiring and difficult process. We know it is. And that they're willing to do so in a way that's expansive and changes the way we get together, the way we educate, and the way we sell and buy. That's interesting in and of itself. I don't know that I would just flatly go, okay, every show is now going to start running these individual experiences. they'll probably try it. I don't know if every show is geared to it or every organization or every company is geared to it, but I think it's interesting and worthwhile, especially in that it's a little easier. And I'm going to say this I'm qualifying myself really hard here. I've got to be very careful with what I say here. I like teaching at them. However, it is a little easier to replicate the traditional classroom lecture hall experience than it is like online than it is to replicate the small group interaction experience that we see in these kind of events. Though we have tried over and over to do like, oh, we're doing a Zoom call with individual people and breakouts. Yes, it works. There's wonderful things that happen there. I've seen this outside the industry. I participated in some of these for Amazon sellers and Amazon advertisers. You guys that know, my e-commerce hat is also on. But I think that the traditional classroom is easier to turn into a learning module than it is to just abstract the version of interactions that was going on at these kind of smaller gatherings, or like I said, these symposia, and I don't know exactly how we want to call these things as a class, but these smaller gatherings, these table meetings, those kinds of things are just not as easy to replicate. And that's one of the things that is kind of like the je ne sais quoi, the thing that we don't know exactly how to define about trade shows is the interaction side of it. So if we make something that is a focused, intense version of that peer-to-peer interaction and peer-to-vendor solutions provider interaction, I can see how that would be very attractive to people. Yeah. And you might see more going on, because though we can replicate parts of the trade show booth experience to a degree, it's just not the same interaction. Though we can do classes online in a way that makes them better. And I think there's some things that are actually, for some people, more valuable about chunking classes or being able to replay them, things like that. You do still miss the interaction portion of it. I don't think it goes away. I think it's still better to have somebody in a real class who can come up and ask questions and handle garments, especially because we do a very tactile work in what we do. But this is the special sauce that people always talk about remembering at these events, seeing that distilled into its own thing. That probably has some legs. I think we'll see that happen some more.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely. That was it was cool to kind of talk to Josh about it, to Jenna about it, coming from where she comes from in stalls, right? They're typically the 800-pound gorilla in the room a lot of times in the apparel decorating space. And so understanding what their thought process is on it too, and that was kind of cool. And like I said, it was interesting to see that broken out, and like you said, I could see other things like that. As you mentioned, you and I have talked about different kinds of, so how do you replicate, not replicate, how do you create something that brings in those elements, right? So
yeah, and I mean, funny enough, I see some of it in other segments too. Lisa Shaw, who's often here with us and my kind of coworker at Brilliance to a degree, my compatriot, she does this in the home craft space more. Now, the people who come are not all home craft. They're also cottage industry and others who come to learn digitizing with her. And they do like these 3-day getaway things where it's a camp, it's an interaction, it's a travel thing, but it's also intense classroom time in a workshop kind of environment with a lot of one-on-one time. Yeah. There are other spaces that are doing this. I think we could do that in the commercial world too. I mean, I think that's possible. And I think we just don't think about it that way because we're always trying to scale en masse. And I get that because that's the most eyeballs you can get in front of you. But here's something I'm going to say, and without naming names of which shows I'm talking about, as a vendor, there was a very distinct experience I had pre-pandemic. So this is when trade shows are, at their height. Pre-pandemic, we're doing very well. I had a very large trade show I went to where I spent a tremendous amount, tens of thousands of dollars to put my booth down and to have that footprint and do all that stuff. And I got the same number of qualified leads that I got from a much smaller regional show. Yeah, the sales were actually better at the regional show than the larger show. Eyeballs alone doesn't make the thing work. When you have don't get me wrong, you have a tremendous number of eyeballs on something, then the smaller segment that actually commits to something is much more worth it. But there is kind of a range where you're like, all right, if the show's not immense, if the if the experience is not viral, the likelihood that the actual buy through of this smaller segment is going to make up for the costs involved with doing a big show sometimes doesn't make sense. And I get that. Whereas if you were somebody who could sponsor one of these events and in the room, you've got, 90 people who very specifically want something you probably have.
Yeah.
That can make a difference, especially when you're talking about the levels that they were talking about for these shows.
Sure.
I mean, we were talking about million plus producers, we're talking about larger shops. So for them, it made more sense. I think we could still do it in a smaller format too. But then it's about seeing where cost breaks are, if it has to be a charged event. I think that's the thing. It's always about trying to find out where value is at the sweet spot for everybody.
Yep.
And also trying to make it, memorable, inspirational, and worthwhile for people to spend the hours of their life doing it. I mean, that's just the truth. When we get down to it, I know I always make things over dramatic and talk about our lives improving and things like that. That's me. But I think that's true. We're talking about, if we're going to spend our money and time at a trade show, by the way, our money, because we're using labor to get it, means it's also the hours of our life, just made into little numbers and paper. We are spending the time that we have on Earth doing stuff. It needs to be worthwhile. And I think thinking about that in more than a transactional way, yes, transactional value is still happening. Business is being done. That's great. But the fact that it was more than transactional and really kind of encouraged people to have some community as well as to help each other and build up some networking. I mean, networking is the cold term for it, but hey, it's community. That's what it is.
Sure.
So I think that was cool to see, and to see that it was bought in by so many people. Decorators were happy, vendors were happy, organizers were happy. That's a great thing to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, anything else that stood out there, or if anybody that's tuned in, you've got anything to share about what maybe happened over Two Raider Guys? And real quick, you want to say hi to some folks too, or
yeah, let's say hi to some folks. Let's go ahead and grab some comments. So we have Ramona, who's by the way trying to make sure you're all right, my friend. Good morning, everyone.
I will
Aaron,
take that to heart.
give yourself a break, take a nap, even. Yeah, I agree. So a little self-care goes a long way. And I'm somebody who hates the word, but I know it's real. You got to do it.
I get it. Yep.
And I'll say this. Hey, here's a pre-weekly win. I got up and exercised this morning, even though I didn't have time. And I was like, man, I kind of felt better. I felt better that I did it. I know it's not a lot, but I was like, you know what? I'm taking that time. That time. Got to do it. That was nice. Sometimes you got to. I don't know. I'm not good at that, but sometimes you got to. Mo says, good morning. Good morning, Mo. Happy to have you in. We have Mike from up in the frozen north. I gotta not say that. It's not always Canada. Mike's coming in saying good morning. And Yosta from Sweden, happy to have you in. Thank you for showing up. Marta's coming in, Cavra Creations. Good morning. And
good morning.
We have Barb coming in also from north central Minnesota. Thank you for coming in and for saying hi. Get ready for weekly wins and challenges Q&A. We want to hear from you guys today.
Yep, definitely.
One other thing I will bring in.
Yeah, please.
One more thing for Two Really Guys recap. Number one, guys, go check it out because Terry and Aaron were actually there. They have something better to say than for me just reacting. You're watching the YouTube reaction version of this thing for me, and I don't know why. At the same time, what I would say is the other half of it, we got to talk to Jenna about what's going on at stalls. And hey, for all of you people like me who literally live with patches around your person at all times, and I know I've shown these, I'm like walking around little patches. Her talking about patches and applied materials as still being around. Yeah, same thing. Everybody's talking about DTG, DTF. They're fantastic. Cut vinyl is still going to happen because it has certain things that are not replaceable. And I have to say, I fully agree. It's the same thing we said about replacing screen printing. People have said that there's multiple things going to replace every single version of what we do. And it tends to be that they have strengths and weaknesses. And so aside from some very niche decorations that I do think have gone through waves, most of them stick around, and depending on the market, they may stick around forever. There is a period of time where there were more chain stitch and chenille machines than there are now, but until letter jackets go entirely away, there will always be a place for chenille machines. And frankly, people are doing chenille patches more, not less. They're bringing them in through fashion and doing retro stylings again. It's also like rhinestones. I've ridden out a couple of waves of rhinestones, but it's not like they go away. They just become popular in more broad markets, and then they kind of decline and they're back still in the markets. If you're doing cheer, though, I bet you glitter and rhinestones are still happening like mad. They don't just disappear. So like I said, it's those kinds of things. But yeah, and also here we go. I'm gonna bring Mike's comment in here on that. Okay. Number one, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Me too. 4-hour club right here. That'll be sometime long before DTG and Color Real kill squeegees and spools. Here's the other thing I'm going to tell you guys. every time we have this discussion, I saw a comment where somebody brought me in. In fact, Lisa brought me in on a comment in a Facebook group. We'll use the Embroidery Nerd group to give proper credit. Somebody's like, anybody know how to digitize gradients? And they showed a logo that had, I kid you not, it had to have had 20 rainbow gradient shifts with shading. And I looked at it, and there's always like, oh, color reel for sure. And I'm looking at it going, I know just enough about color reel to tell you, even color reel, that would be a tremendous bear to digitize for embroidery. I was like, not color reel, nothing, print that. Recommend that person not embroider it. My God, because there's certain things that look cool and are possible, but might not be profitable. But here's what I'm going to say is, even that technology, all technologies have their own limitations, their strengths and weaknesses that we have to figure out. And yeah, DTG, same thing. DTG did not put screen printers out of business. I think it just provided a different opportunity for people. It certainly moved some things out of the screen printing's wheelhouse, but didn't put them out. I think, and I'll be honest with you, I think DTF is more dangerous, if you want to call it dangerous to screen printing.
Well,
to
and
film
I think DTF is probably more dangerous to DTG than to
DTF.
Yes,
100%.
Than to screen print. Excuse me.
Yeah, like you said during the show, and I'll bring this up since we're talking recap still just a little bit. You guys were saying, hey, how many people, or Terry said that how many people are outsourcing DTF transfers right now, and every hand in the room went up. And I'm going to agree with you. In my embroidery classes, even, I have people coming to ask me how to do DTF stuff or stuff that's related, how to generate art for print. To the point that I've now written 2 articles and done a show entirely about how to make faux embroidery art out of your embroidery software and existing designs in order to use it for DTF DTG. That is something that's there. DTF is not going anywhere. Here's what I'm going to say. This is what Jenna said, and I fully agree. Just like we have with Color Reel's not doing metallic threads. Color Reel's not doing fuzzy threads. They've got a lane that covers a lot of embroidery, most of it, in fact. But there's still going to be room, even in the outward chance that they get everything down to millimeter precision on the color changes and everything goes to dyeing on the machine. We're going to then have to tackle different surfaces, different sheens, different thicknesses of thread, all this other stuff that's still happening in the world of embroidery that doesn't relate. So I think that there's still places for it. Don't get me wrong. Do I see lots of people making use of their embossing presses? Comes back and forth. It's never a mass market in the commercial business to business space. So there's things that you can go. Our shop had an embossing press that I personally helped to convert into a regular heat press for doing transfers because the embossing press was useless. The dies were expensive. We didn't use it. It sat in a loft forever because it got popular, at a certain time in the 90s and then disappeared. So these things, there are things that become popular and go away as far as particular effects. Mm-hmm. But when you provide mass utility, of course, it's going to change the space. I just don't think it's going to embroidery's been around for a heck of a long time. I think it's not going to get completely unseated into something new. And I think same thing with screen printing. I mean, there's a lot still going on. Yeah.
Well, do you want to hit Mike's comment?
Yeah, let's go for one more.
We can leave the accept part off because I think I think we covered that. But if I could take this one real quick for you,
please do.
I think that is definitely still the challenge, I guess, if you were to call it with DTF, is the hand is definitely going to be bigger. And I think
let me read this out so you guys who are on the podcast version. DTG feels way better than DTF, though.
Sorry,
many are willing to overlook that convenience of DTF. Everything has its place. I'm going to go ahead and read a parenthetical, even though I should be nice and not read it, Mike. Except Color Reel, it's still dumb. Changed my mind. Nobody clipped me. Mike said that. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I do think it's looking for a market yet. I still think we're looking for the market. But so Aaron, you're saying really it's DTF
just
still has
that
a
feel,
problem,
right? Yeah. So we talked about DTF maybe being a hazard to DTG. And I still don't think that it's necessarily a hazard. Just like DTG was never going to kill screen print. But yes, I think it will eat away at the DTG market a little bit. But like you said, it's still kind of got that hand, but what I heard and sitting around getting to talk, I was talking with pretty high level scientists from DuPont and some other places that are very interested in this kind of thing. That powder, that's the adhesive that makes this stuff work, right? There's a sweet spot in there that they're looking to try to figure out, right? How do you get that fine enough that you get rid of that hand, but not so fine that it actually won't adhere, that won't help the ink actually adhere, right? And so there's this, and then once you start making that powder even more fine, at what point are we going to need to be wearing ventilators to deal with this stuff, right? Now, it's still big enough that it's not necessarily hazardous. I mean, if you're snorting it like, it was the 80s, then maybe you got a problem. But
I mean, it does sometimes come packaged that way. I've seen people open up packages of the adhesive powder and it's like in baggies. I'm like, okay, so, that's not fun to get in the mail.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, I think that's a really interesting comment by Mike. And like he said, I think people are willing to overlook that at times. But yeah, I mean, I will definitely, if push came to shove and I could DTG print it instead of DTF adhere it, I would still DTG because yes, there, with DTG, there's virtually no hand. It's not sublimation, no hand. That's the best way to decorate, in my opinion. But no.
I mean, you're a sub guy with a DTG printer. You know a lot about this stuff.
Well, I just have to get my thing out there. So
hey, I'm with you. I wish sublimation could do some of the things people believe it can do, but other than that, I love it. Yeah, I'm a big sublimation guy too. Have really enjoyed it. DTF, like, and Mike says this, DTF's getting better and better. Some vendors have better feel than others, but there's post processing techniques. Yep. Also use some printed HTV that feels better under certain circumstances. There's room for all of it. And I agree. Yep. Plus, like we said, metallics, hollow flake, glitter, foils, certain things are not going to be printable yet, at least with a lot of these processes, or require a secondary process. So I think we're not completely disappearing from all that stuff.
Yeah.
That, and also it's all about entry points. There's still going to be somebody who wants to have a simple cutter and vinyl setup that costs very little to make simple shirts. That's going to be a reality. I think that because the heat press is always involved, that person, here's what I'll say, that person's entry into full color art through buying TTF transfers is a lot shorter than their entry point, or a lot smaller than their kind of gateway they're going to have to go through to wanting to go to DTG in-house. That's the reality for me, is that people will go to DTF first, even if they go to DTG, because they're going to want to bring that in without the cost of the equipment. But hey, that means that for people who want to bring in DTG printers that then they use to create DTF transfers, since we know it's really, those are partners, they're not antagonists. You can become a supplier of transfers. That's the other thing too. It's like there is an entire cottage market of that going on. It just depends on your segment and what makes sense for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to run out of time if we're not careful here.
Let's do some weekly wins, right?
Weekly wins.
I see we also have some questions. We can always answer those quickly.
We'll get that. So we'll go weekly wins quick. We'll get into some of the questions and see how we do here.
We'll roll on it. We're a little over.
7 minutes, I guess. So.
We'll try it.
All right. I'll just start. I don't know why, but
go for it.
Jump in.
I was going to make you do it.
So I think fairly clear for me, the weekly win was Start Here Academy.
Nice.
It was an amazing event, 4 hours of just nonstop education, networking, support. I got to kind of be the lead off keynote presentation of the night, and the fact that they let me set off a confetti cannon in a big room was just icing on the cake. And
awesome.
I think I was able to inspire a lot of people to build a business that they love and come from that place of being a business owner instead of an employee of their business.
Awesome.
Right? Those are two different things, folks. And most people, unfortunately, get into that. I'm an employee of my business, not a business owner who has a business that they love and they're proud of. So it was that was my weekly win, just being able to share that. It came off really well. I had little note cards with me, Eric. About halfway through the presentation, I lost my place in the note cards. And I said, you know what? I got this. And I stuck on my thing and just went with it. So I was like,
audible clap, not even golf clap, audible clap, real applause. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well done.
All right. What about for you?
One for me, here's a goofy one. I think this is funny. So I'm going to throw this on screen if I can do it fast enough. I actually provided a project for Brilliance. And I know it's an Brilliance thing and it might be slightly more craft than not, but this is a family thing. And we've been talking about family a lot lately for a lot of reasons. And so coming up on Father's Day, I know my dad probably won't hear this one. He's not probably listening in, but my dad and my mom's family always were kind of fun people and jokesters. This is actually from my mom's family. We have this joke. So I made a dad joke patch that you can go download. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and throw this on screen. If you want one of these, you can go make one for yourself. I've got links and everything for it if you want it. If you guys don't know what this is, this patch, and I'm holding the real one here. This is a round to it. So the joke is, your dad or other jokester in the family says, "Hey, can I get you to do a chore for me?" And you're like, "Man, I'll finish that when I get around to it. I'll handle it when I can get around to it." And then they hand you the round to it, and they're like, "Well, here you go. Now you've got around to it. You can get that finished right now." And so that was something. My mom's family were kind of woodworkers, and they would have these little wooden coins that had the to it on it. And I remember carrying one of those around or getting handed the round to it. So I thought I had to make a patch version for Father's Day. A dad joke made real. There you go. You can go make a physical round to it patch. And actually, it's the cool thing too. It's an interactive design. You can make it with fabric if you want to. You can make it with thread only. You can do the plastic process, the water soluble process. Any way you want to make it, you can. And that's a free thing. Using our free version of our software, you can do all the interactive stuff too. So if you want to round to it, go get it. The other thing I'm going to go ahead and recommend too, and this is not like branded stuff. This is because I, like many people, am very busy. Let's say you didn't get around to making Father's Day stuff. The other thing you can do, and for some reason this is not switching my tab for me, I will back that out.
Okay.
But yeah, we can also have some other stuff for Father's Day. I have some stuff for Father's Day to put out there. Some of my stuff, some of the other stuff from the other folks who produce over here, and including I have a really simple hat file. There's just nice big slab block letters that says "Best Dad." If you just ran out of all the time that you had, but you're an embroiderer, you can make Dad a hat, or your favorite dad who's around. So let me try and share that real quickly if I can. But yeah, that's something cool. Also, I thought I was happy because I've turned around the entire project and the newsletter and the blog post yesterday before afternoon. We did it real fast to make sure everybody had something because we didn't have anything else slotted. And I realized that we were not going to have something great for Father's Day. I really wanted to make sure that we did. And that was something where it's like, yep, I was happy that we got that done. And I really wanted everybody to have something for Father's Day. So let me share this too. And I'll bring up the other link as well. It's bit.ly/BrillDads23. This is the newsletter we had with a version. It has the round to it patch if you want it, but it also has some other fun stuff. There's some key tags. Yeah, it's more crafty stuff. I get it. I swim in both streams here. But this also, I'm going to tell you, this Best Dad patch, this Best Dad text is made in such a way there's a centered out version that you can use for hats. So if you want to do that on hats, you can. Also, Lisa put together this 3D foam design, this Grill Master. It's actually pretty good. I like it. So it's a little cool design. Some, like I said, some of it's crafty, some of it's more commercial focused. If you find my designs, they tend to be commercial style because that's what I do. I give you stock designs, not projects, except for I just couldn't help it. The round to it patch has been kicking around in my head. And I was like, this is the moment. This is the dad joke time. Baby. You got to get it. So yeah, if you want either of those, I'll post those in the comments also as we're finishing up here.
Okay, cool.
That was my big thing, guys. You know, grab your round to it patch. That's my win.
Love it.
Make yourself a cool patch. Why not? But yeah, if nothing else, that's just something I thought was good for everybody to get a chance to make something for others.
Awesome. Congrats, Eric. That's cool. All right, let's get Carol's here real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Carol, I love this. Used funds from my little business to take whole family to a theme park for 3 days. Just felt amazing to be able to see the hard work transform into important memories. And that is, yes,
love it.
Carol, that is, and I hope what you take from that, and it sounds like you are, is really, that, those days where it wasn't as easy as maybe you thought it could be, or, there was just challenges, that's your why, that's your purpose. That's your, what I always call a reason, right? Our reasons have to be bigger than our excuses.
Yep.
And your reason was that you get that experience of feeling that amazing work turn into important memories. So that is super cool, Carol. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and, big time.
Yep, definitely. And then Eric, you've got your links.
I'm throwing the links out for you guys because I know if anybody asks later.
Yep, they'll be in the comments there.
Little disorganized this week. It's been a rough one.
Been good. All right, so I think we should we've got couple questions in there. And if we can do it. This is going to be the lightning round, Eric. Can you answer two questions in 1 minute?
Yeah, super fast. So we had Yosta, right? So Yosta says 2001 embroidery has 9 needles. I think it's a Baradin, not important. It's 1/3 the price of a new single head. And just got a single, something to think about. All I will say is with any used machine, see it running, find out the maintenance schedule it's been on and who did the last maintenance. Talk to them if you can. And then it's really about this. Parts availability. Are the parts still available? And can you get service for the machine? If you can, then do the math in your head. How many of the standard garments you run am I going to have to run through? How long does this thing have to survive to pay itself off? Because what I will say is, from someone who's used lots of old, not so great machines in my time. What we did do is we were like, all right, if a machine is like a few $1,000s and we think we can keep this thing running with the cost staying minimal and make it profitable before it dies, we would think about it. Just as long as you think about the shipping costs, the haul away costs, everything else, it's less 25 years. Sounds like it's pretty darn old, but you might still make it work out. And I'll say I've run on machines older than that. Even in my time back where it was, I used really old, crazy machines, but it is possible.
Yep. All right, Ramona just shared a challenge.
Yep.
Not really a question there, but it totally get after it, Ramona. Here, yep. Get around to it.
Yeah. If you don't have your own, you can make your own.
That's right.
Believe me, I need to make a few more.
All right. Ready?
Oh, yeah. Burden versus Tajima versus Happy. You know what? Whichever one you can get service for. Trying to save me from myself, huh?
Yep. Save you from yourself. Well, you were actually answering the question for real, though.
Get service and support and find out how much it's going to cost to have somebody at your shop. That's going to be really important. The big brands are going to be similar, but hey, whatever you're doing, use case, service, and support.
Service and support.
Can't help it, man.
Yeah. And Nikki, you can borrow it, and you have to give me credit one time, and then after that, you can have it. That's the rule.
All right, folks.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
See you next time.